The painting you are about to see has been described for 120 years as one of the calmest images in Victorian art, and almost nobody who has stood in front of it has noticed that something in it is biting her. The wolf at her hip has her mantle closed in its jaws, and it is pulling. In a picture that everyone calls peaceful, that is the only moment when anything in the wood touches her at all. This is Aphroditi, painted by Rivier in 1902, and it is very nearly life-size. The canvas stands nearly 2 meters tall, which means the lions beside her are the size of real lions. There are wolves at her left, and behind them the pack keeps going back into the trees until you lose them in the dark. There are lions and lionesses along the slope, close enough to her hem to be touching it. There are leopards at the front of the group, and again behind it, and up on the right, where hardly anyone looks, there are bears. Count them properly, and there are more than 20 animals in this wood. Every single one of them is a predator, and there is no prey anywhere in the picture. There is exactly one exception, and you have to look above her hand to find it. A dove is coming down towards her fingers, and she is the only figure in the painting looking at it. The painter left an answer to that, and he left it somewhere almost nobody looks. This is Rivier, photographed in his own studio in 1884, and the room tells you most of what you need to know about him. There are animal skins across the floor, a big cat spread flat in front of the easel, and another folded over the bench beside it. The Royal Academy first hung his work when he was still a teenager, and he went on showing in that building for the rest of his working life. He stood for president of the Academy and lost by a handful of votes, which tells you how seriously the establishment took him. What the public knew him for was work like this: a soldier home from the Crimea and the dog that waited the whole time he was gone. Or work like this, which is 6 geese and a flower pot they have decided not to trust, and which is as funny now as it was in 1878. And this is the one his audience bought by the thousand, a dog that will not leave the body of the knight it belonged to. He could turn the same skill towards horror whenever he wanted, a dead knight on a beach beside the thing that killed him. And here it is again as lions, moving through ruins in the dark, painted by somebody who plainly knew how a lion carries its weight. The critics of the day called him the successor to Edwin Landseer, whose stag ended up on every biscuit tin in Britain. Rivier had learned his animals as a child at the London Zoo with a sketchbook, and as an adult, he kept a menagerie at his own house. He also worked in the dissecting rooms at the Zoological Gardens, painting from the dead as well as the living, so that he would know what sat under the fur. Which is why every animal in this picture is a portrait of an animal that existed, rather than a shape borrowed from another painting. And it matters, because he had painted this exact scene twice already. Daniel in the Lion's Den, from 1872, is one man standing unarmed with his back to us in a pit of lions that will not touch him. If you look at the floor of that pit, you can see the bones of the men who went in before he did. Years later, he painted Daniel's answer to the king, which is the same pit, the same lions, and the same turned back. So when he built the composition a third time and replaced the prophet with a Greek goddess, what exactly was the miracle supposed to be? He answered that question himself, on the back. Fixed to the reverse of this canvas, there is a label that Rivier put there, and it does not describe the painting at all. What it does instead is quote a poem. The poem is the Homeric hymn to Aphroditi, which was not written by Homer, but was sung to the goddess centuries before Christ. The lines he chose off it run like this: the grey wolf and the bear, the keen-eyed lion, and the swift-footed pard. Now look at the wood again, with those 4 words in your head: the grey wolf, the bear, the keen-eyed lion, and the swift-footed pard, which is simply an Old English word for a leopard. 4 animals named in the poem, 4 animals in the painting, and nothing in this wood put there as decoration. He is not illustrating a mood or a general idea about beauty. He is illustrating one specific passage, and he left a note on the back saying which one. A painter does not screw a citation to the reverse of a canvas by accident, and you have to assume he meant it to be found. The passage is the 5th Homeric hymn. The animals arrive at line 68. And this is where it turns, because the passage does not stop where his label stops. Here is the standard English translation. After her came grey wolves, fawning on her, and grim-eyed lions, and bears, and fleet leopards, ravenous for deer. That is the part he wrote on the label. This is the part he did not. And she was glad in heart to see them, and put desire in their breasts, so that they all mated, two together. Desire in their breasts. Which means these animals were never calm, and they are not adoring her, and nothing here has been tamed by anybody. They have been filled with wanting by a goddess walking past them, and in the very next line of the poem they leave the clearing in pairs, which leaves the question of where she is going, while all of that happens behind her. She is walking up Mount Ida, and she is going to a shepherd called Anchises. Zeus has struck her with desire for a mortal man, as a punishment for all the times she made the other gods fall for mortals themselves. She is on her way to take him to bed, and in the hymn, it costs her something. When it is over, she tells him what she has done, and she is ashamed of it, which is not how goddesses usually behave in these stories. So the animals are not the subject of this painting at all. They are the weather she brings with her. Which is exactly why the wolf has her clothing in its teeth, and why the word in the poem is fawning, while the thing in the paint is a bite. It is also why she is not looking at a single one of them. Whatever is happening to these animals is not about them, and she has already moved on. In May 1902, this went up on the wall at Burlington House, in the Academy's summer exhibition. It was the first full summer show of the Edwardian age, and the crowd walking through it had queued for his Daniel a generation earlier. They looked at this one and saw what they expected to see, which was a woman, unharmed and serene. And to be fair to them and to Rivier, that is a defensible reading of the picture in front of them. The museum that owns it now says close to the same thing, that he did not pursue the erotic side of the subject. That is true about the picture, and it is not true about the poem he screwed to the back of it. Because this is the Aphroditi the tradition hands you, and this is what he chose not to paint, naked, marble, and waiting to be looked at. He painted her clothed to the ankles, turned away from us, watching a bird, and he put all of the desire into the animals instead. That is not a man avoiding his subject, that is a man walking it straight past you, while you are busy admiring how calm it looks. Every viewer since 1902 has been handed both halves of this, the picture and the note, and almost nobody has turned it round. The painting is in New York now, bought by the Dahesh Museum in 1995. Its public galleries closed in 2008, and they have not reopened since. So a painting built entirely out of the act of being looked at has spent most of this century with nowhere for anyone to look at it. And she is still not looking back at any of them, because her eyes are on the one creature in the frame that everything around her would eat, and the only one that can leave whenever it likes. So tell me which one you think you are looking at, a woman surrounded by a desire she never asked for, or the goddess who caused every bit of it on her way somewhere else.